My name is Amelia, and I am a 32-year-old mother of three. I've always tried to be the glue that holds our family together. That's not just something I say, that's something I live every single day. I wake up before everyone else, pack the lunches, sign the permission slips, and answer the work emails before my feet even touch the floor. I do it because I love my family. And I do it because if I don't, nobody else will. But some days the weight of all of it just sits on your chest and doesn't move. Today was one of those days. I had back-to-back client calls from 8 in the morning until almost 4. My lunch was half a granola bar eaten over my keyboard. My boss needed a revised report, not by end of day, not by noon, but by 10 a.m., which he told me at 9:45. And through all of it, running quietly in the back of my mind, like a second job, did Maya finish her homework? Did someone give Tyler his allergy medication? Is the baby eating okay? That invisible checklist, that's the part nobody sees. By the time I pulled into our driveway at 6 p.m., I was completely empty. Not just tired, emptied out. I remember sitting in the car for about 30 seconds, just breathing, telling myself, "You made it. Go hug your kids." I opened the front door, and the first thing I noticed was the silence. Not a warm silence, not the kind that wraps around you after a long day. This was a cold, strange silence, the kind that makes your gut feeling wake up before your brain does. My kids are 7, 5, and 3. At 6 in the evening, this house is never quiet. There should have been cartoons, someone crying over a toy, little feet running on the hardwood floor. There was nothing. And then I smelt it. My shampoo, the expensive one, jasmine and vanilla, the one I only use on weekends because it costs too much to use every day. I smelt it the moment I stepped into the hallway, thick, fresh, like it had just been used. Not downstairs, upstairs, in my bathroom. I stood very still. Then I heard footsteps on the stairs, and Kayla came down. She was 23 years old, and her long dark hair was wet. Not damp, wet, freshly washed, loose around her shoulders like she had just stepped out of a relaxing shower. She was wearing a hoodie I had never seen before, scrolling her phone, and when she looked up and saw me, she smiled like nothing in the world was wrong. "Oh, hey, kids are in the playroom." Tyler was fussy, but he's good now. She picked up her bag from my kitchen counter, casual, comfortable, like she owned the place. I kept my voice steady. "Did you use my shower, Kayla?" She barely looked up. "Oh, yeah, I spilled juice on myself. Hope that's okay." "Hope that's okay," said with zero apology, zero awareness, like I was the strange one for even asking. That was my first big red flag. Not just what she did, but how she acted about it. Completely dismissive. Like my home, my bathroom, my shampoo, none of it really belonged to me. I was still standing there, still trying to find the right words, when I heard footsteps again. Marcus came downstairs. My husband, in sweatpants and a t-shirt, hair slightly messy like he'd been lying down. He stopped when he saw me, and I noticed it, that tiny pause, that half-second delay before the smile came. "Hey, you're home," he said. Not early, not late, just home, like always. Then he looked at Kayla. "Thanks again, seriously, lifesaver." She laughed, easy, warm, and said, "Anytime." I watched him walk her to the door, hold it open, say goodbye like it was the most natural thing in the world. When he came back, I told him about the shower. about the shampoo, about how she acted. We went back and forth for 10 minutes. His voice stayed calm. Mine got tighter. And at the end of it, he looked at me and said, "Babe, you're overreacting." That word, that one word, hit me like a knife to the heart. Not because he said I was wrong, but because of how quickly he said it, how easily, like my feelings were an inconvenience. He went to help with dinner. I stood alone in the hallway. That night, after the house went quiet and everyone was asleep, I went to the back of our bedroom closet, behind the winter coats, behind the old luggage, and I found the dusty old nanny cam we bought when Maya was a baby. I held it in both hands, and I thought about where to put it, because somewhere between the wet hair and "you're overreacting," something had shifted inside me, something quiet, something that couldn't be unsaid. I felt like a stranger in my own home. The next morning, I woke up with a heavy heart. I looked at my husband, Mark, and wondered if I even knew the man sleeping next to me. He looked so peaceful, so normal, one arm tucked under his pillow, breathing slow and easy, like a man with absolutely nothing on his mind. And I lay there next to him, staring at the ceiling with everything on mine. I hadn't slept more than 2 hours. I got up quietly, got the kids ready, made breakfast, packed the bags, all on autopilot. My hands were doing the work, but my mind was somewhere else entirely. It kept replaying the same 3 things: the wet hair, the shampoo, and that word, overreacting. When Mark finally came downstairs, he kissed me on the cheek. Quick, light, the kind of kiss that doesn't mean anything anymore. The kind that's just a habit, like grabbing your keys on the way out the door. "Have a good day," he said. "You too," I said back, and he was gone. I stood at the kitchen window and watched his car back out of the driveway. That fake little goodbye sat in my chest like a stone. I should not have gone to work that day. I knew it the moment I sat down at my desk and stared at my computer screen without reading a single word on it for 20 minutes. My body was in the office, my mind was in my living room, or wherever that camera was pointing. I had set the nanny cam up the night before, tucked behind the small bookshelf near the entryway. It connected to an app on my phone. Simple, quiet, invisible. All morning I told myself, "Don't look, wait, you're being paranoid." By 11 o'clock, I couldn't wait anymore. I got up, walked to the bathroom, locked the door behind me, and took out my phone. My hands were shaking. I'm not exaggerating. My palms were sweaty, my fingers kept slipping on the screen, and my heart was racing so fast I could feel it in my throat. I opened the app. The camera feed loaded slowly, pixel by pixel, like it knew what it was about to show me and wanted me to prepare. The footage was grainy, black and white, but clear enough. I watched the empty living room for about 30 seconds. Then the front door opened. Mark walked in. I told myself, okay, he forgot something. He came back for his wallet. This is nothing. But he didn't go upstairs. He didn't go to the kitchen. He stood in the entryway and took out his phone, and a few minutes later, Kayla walked through that same front door. My heart dropped. She wasn't supposed to be there. It wasn't her day. There was no reason I had been told for either of them to be in that house together, alone, in the middle of a Tuesday morning. I watched Mark say something to her. I watched her laugh. I watched him reach out and touch her arm, just for a second, just lightly, but I saw it. On that small, grainy, black and white screen, I saw it. My vision blurred. I didn't even realize I was crying until a tear dropped onto my phone screen. I left the bathroom. I grabbed my bag. I told my assistant I wasn't feeling well, which was the truest thing I had said all day, and I walked out of that office like the building was on fire. The drive home was a wreck. Not the roads, me. I was a complete wreck. I was crying, gripping the steering wheel, running through every moment of the last few months in my head. Every late night, every distracted conversation, every time he'd seemed somewhere else, even when he was sitting right next to me. I had caught them in the act. I was sure of it. I don't even remember parking the car. I just remember pushing open the front door, hard, and walking straight to the kitchen with my heart in my throat and 3 years of quiet doubt burning in my chest, ready to finally say every word I had been swallowing for weeks. And there was Mark, standing at the stove, stirring something in a pot, an apron around his waist, the silly one the kids gave him for Father's Day with the little dinosaurs on it. He turned around when he heard me, surprised. Then his face changed, softened when he saw my eyes. "Amelia, what's wrong? Why are you home?" I opened my mouth, closed it, looked at this man I had built a life with, this man who wore dinosaur aprons and came home to cook dinner, and felt the ground shift under my feet. Before I could say a single word, he set down the spoon, crossed the kitchen, and took both of my hands in his. His eyes were serious, nervous even. "Honey," he said quietly, "I have to tell you something. I've been keeping a secret from you." I stood there, frozen, as the smell of garlic and onions filled the air. My anger was slowly being replaced by a terrifying confusion, because he didn't look guilty. He didn't look like a man who had been caught. He looked like a man who had been carrying something heavy for a very long time. And standing there in that kitchen, in that silly dinosaur apron, holding both of my hands, he looked like he was finally ready to put it down. "Mark," I whispered, "just tell me." He took a long breath. "I lost my job, Amelia." The words landed soft, quiet, but they hit me like a wall. 3 weeks ago, he continued. They called it a restructure, said my position was being eliminated. I cleared out my desk on a Thursday afternoon and I drove around for 2 hours before I came home because I didn't know how to walk through that door and say it out loud. I stared at him. 3 weeks? I breathed. He nodded. He couldn't quite meet my eyes. I know how that sounds, but I kept thinking I could fix it before you found out. I was applying every day. I had 2 interviews last week. I thought if I could just land something fast, I could keep things running smoothly and you'd never have to worry. My mouth was dry. "So what about Kayla?" I asked. My voice came out smaller than I intended. "This morning, she was here. I saw you both on the—" I stopped. I hadn't told him about the camera yet. "I came home and you were both here, together." He looked confused for a second. Then something clicked behind his eyes. "He called her in," he said slowly, "because I had a phone interview at 10, a serious one, a company I really want. I needed the kids out of the background. I needed it to be quiet." He paused. "She took them to the park, Amelia, all 3 of them, for 90 minutes. That's why the house was empty." I felt something crack open inside my chest. "And yesterday?" I asked. "The shower, the shampoo?" She had juice spilled all over her shirt. Maya knocked over a whole cup. I told her to use the guest bathroom, but she must have gone upstairs. He shook his head. "I should have told you. I should have said something instead of making you feel like you were overreacting." I finished. "I'm sorry. I said that because I was stressed and defensive, and I was scared you'd start asking questions I wasn't ready to answer." He squeezed my hands. "That wasn't fair to you. None of this was fair to you."
I looked down at our hands on the kitchen table, his thumbs moving slow circles on my knuckles, the way he's always done when he knows I'm hurting. I had spent 24 hours building a story in my head. I had cast him as the villain. I had driven home like a maniac, ready to burn everything down. And the whole time, this man was standing in my kitchen in a dinosaur apron, cooking dinner, terrified of disappointing me.
The anger didn't leave all at once. It dissolved, slowly, like sugar in warm water. And what was underneath it was something I hadn't expected. Guilt. Deep, quiet guilt. Because I hadn't asked. I hadn't sat him down and said, "Something feels wrong. Talk to me." I had gone straight to suspicion. I had pointed a camera at my own home instead of opening my mouth. "I'm sorry, too," I said. My voice broke a little on the last word. He looked up. "I should have talked to you," I told him, instead of going to the worst place in my head. He didn't say, "I told you so." He didn't remind me that he'd called me out the night before. He just pulled his chair around the table, sat next to me, and put his arm around my shoulders. We stayed like that for a long time, the garlic and onions still simmering on the stove, the house quiet around us, just the two of us at that kitchen table, holding on. Eventually, I rested my head on his shoulder and said, "No more secrets, from either of us." "No more secrets," he agreed. "Through thick and thin," I said. "Through thick and thin," he repeated. And this time, I believed it. We ate dinner together that night, all 5 of us, crowded around the table. The kids loud and messy and completely unaware of everything that had almost fallen apart 24 hours ago. And I looked at my family, really looked at them. At Maya carefully cutting her own chicken, at Tyler talking with his mouth full about something that happened at recess, at our littlest one banging a spoon on the table for absolutely no reason, at Mark catching my eye across the table and giving me that small, private smile that still, after all these years, does something to my heart. A message to my YouTube family. The weight of the world is so much easier to carry when you're not carrying it alone. Whatever you are holding right now, the fear, the doubt, the quiet worry you haven't said out loud to anyone, share it with your partner, with a friend, with someone who loves you. Because secrets don't protect the people we love. They just build walls between us. Talk to each other. That's it. That's the whole lesson. I'm Amelia, and I'll see you in the next one.